In my last video, I touched on the idiotic support from two subgroups that are actually part of the same group, right? They're both on the left. But I would classify one subgroup as far left, which has thrown full support for Hamas and Palestine and has refused to listen to anything that doesn't fit their narrative. So let's take a look at this video here and see what happens.
Now let's go to this lefty losing it. Don't ever ask the left to explain themselves or even the signs they carry.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
What happens to Israel? Curious. Oh, please don't touch my microphone. That's not okay. You're not going to tell us what happens to Israel? Will you tell us what happens to Israel if Palestine is free from the river to the sea? What does that mean? Settler colonialism is the real terrorism?
Prue, we know what that line, that chant that we've been hearing in Australia as well means. It means there is no Israel. It means there is no Jewish state. It means ethnic genocide. So if you're going to carry that sign, then I think you should own it.
Well, they're just moronically parroting words. They don't really understand the fact that, apart from the fact that I think they both were smoking weed before they actually went onto the streets, they're so out of it, unless that is their intellect. Maybe they're just showing how stupid they are. But, you know, they had no idea. They couldn't explain themselves. They're just, you know, poor things who have latched onto a bandwagon, like the idea of that little catchy, you know, from the river to the sea, and, you know, off they go. They're just mindless fools.
Now let's have a look at these charming individuals removing images of missing Israeli children taken hostage by Hamas.
I'm Why don't you do something for Palestine? Why don't you? This is for Palestine.
They're not mutually exclusive. It's children. It's children. It's innocent people.
Okay, what about the children in Palestine?
That's not. It doesn't make it. Oh,
right.
Jesus.
Yeah, terrorists. Yeah.
What?
That's fine by me.
Put on Facebook. All over Facebook.
Now, that is happening not just in the UK, but across the US and elsewhere in the West. And I could show you literally hours of similar footage, hours. It's depressing. But there is a fight back. And I want to show you these two New York lefties and how they react when they're confronted about removing posters of missing women and children.
Do it. I'm a citizen here, and this is American citizens. You got it. You're not going to do it. Get the out of here. This is American citizens. Got kidnapped. You get the out of here. Put your thing. Get the out of here. American citizens.
We're stalling
you bitch. American citizens got kidnapped.
That was in Brooklyn. You get the feeling that couple aren't used to being challenged. Now to New Jersey, where an anti-Hamas billboard has been removed after around 100 calls to police. I don't know why. This seems to be entirely accurate. The billboard reads, "Oh, don't be naive. Hamas would chop your head off too." I think it's a message a few people need to actually comprehend. Prue, not sure why police were being called here when... I would say that is a harsh, but a statement of fact, a harsh statement of fact.
It is, but the problem is that the police forces around the world are politicised now, and they're also worried about being litigated against and hauled over the coals. It's all about PC now, and it seems that the most vocal minorities are the ones that are going to be accommodated. It's all, you know, when you look at all those previous losing it clips, you can see that it's a result of indiscriminate immigration policies where people are allowed to come to countries and they will not adopt the practices and the culture and the privilege of being a citizen of that new country. And, you know, they're never going to assimilate. They're never going to accept that what may be a Christian values community is acceptable to their standards. And this is why we are having all these confrontations and unrest. It's concerning, really concerning, and I don't know how we're going to ever solve the problem.
You know, it's astounding what goes on, right? You've got these people who are in denial, or they're just plain old ignorant, right? You know, you've got this lady holding a sign, you know, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And then when the reporter asks her, well, what happens to Israel? She can't answer it because she knows what that means. That means everybody in Israel is going to be dead. They want to get rid of all the Jews. I mean, you know, it's a known fact that phrase is very, very anti-Semitic. And so when you ask the question, you cannot come to another conclusion other than that, based on the actions of these people. So it's absolutely amazing. Then it's disgusting to see these people taking down the pictures of the victims, of the missing people who are still kidnapped. I think there was a report that came out earlier this week or end of last week. Over 200 Americans are still being held under Hamas control. And the reason there's so many, again, because like us, when we went up there, there is a certain amount of tourism that is being allowed in there. We went to, if I'm not mistaken, 3 different Muslim-controlled areas. If I'm not mistaken, Canaan was one of them. Again, if I'm not mistaken on that one. Jericho, and then Bethlehem. And so, you know, easy targets, right? If you've got Americans in there, all you got to do is stop one of those touristic buses, and you've got like a good, you know, 50 people right there. So you stop a number of them, you know, do the math, right? But here's what I want to do is, you know, we already saw some videos at the very beginning. I want to show you a little bit more, also from Sky News, a little bit more detail as to what these journalists actually saw.
To the bias in the media that's seen major outlets like the New York Times, the ABC, and the BBC blindly report Hamas's lies rather than publish the truth that would be sympathetic to Israel. Overnight, Israeli authorities took the extraordinary step of calling international media into a private briefing where they were played the raw and gruesome footage of Hamas killing innocent Israelis on October 7. Israeli authorities felt the international media were downplaying or even denying what had unfolded in these terror attacks. They say the lies are similar to the phenomenon of Holocaust deniers.
Since the October 7th massacre, the IDF has been collecting footage from body cams taken by the Hamas death squads as they rampage through the communities in southern Israel, butchering everyone in sight. Now, unfortunately, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and I can't believe that we as a country are having to do this, as we work to defeat the terror organization that brutalized our people, we are witnessing a Holocaust denial-like phenomenon evolving in real time as people are casting doubt on the magnitude of the atrocities that Hamas committed against our people and, in fact, recorded in order to glorify that violence. Therefore, tomorrow, the government press office will screen for foreign media gruesome and as yet unseen footage of the barbarities perpetrated against our people on October 7th.
Now, what we're about to speak about is incredibly distressing. So if you have children watching the show tonight, perhaps mute the volume for a minute or two. 100 international journalists viewed the footage from October 7 last night. Some burst into tears as they saw beheadings, torture, and murder. Yosef Haddad is one journalist who attended this briefing from the Israeli government. After watching 43 minutes of the vision that was filmed by Hamas when they attacked Israel, here's what he said.
Hamas terrorists, they run after them, and in front of the 2 kids, they shot the father and killed him in front of their eyes. After that, they dragged the 2 kids inside of the house The kid was shot in the eye. The other kid was injured. Both of them were injured badly. And the Hamas terrorists, they find time to open the fridge and drink Coca-Cola. And at that time, one of the kids shouted, "Kill me, why I am not dead?" A 10-year-old kid is shouting, "Kill me, I don't want to be alive."
Can you imagine a 10-year-old begging to be shot again because he doesn't want to be alive? And here was Dutch journalist Jotam Confino, who's currently reporting in Israel, describing Hamas's terror attacks as ISIS on steroids.
Well, I saw a Hamas terrorist throwing a hand grenade into a bomb shelter where a father with his two sons, he was hiding there. We also saw, of course, the beheadings. We saw an Israeli soldier lying on the ground beheaded. We saw pictures of a burned child, burned beyond recognition. All you could see was that it is a very small person. We saw a picture of a dead baby with blood on it.
Now, all of this footage won't be shown publicly out of respect for those who've passed away and because it's simply too graphic. That Dutch journalist said that some of the other vision showed a father and two sons, roughly 7 and 9 years old, running for their lives in their underwear into what appears to be a bomb shelter with an open entrance. He said a Hamas terrorist throws a hand grenade into the shelter, killing the father and badly injuring the two sons who run back into the house. Another video showed a Hamas terrorist calling his parents and saying to them, "I killed 10 Jews with my own hands. I'm using the dead Jewish woman's phone to call you now." The mother says, "May God protect you." The journalists also saw, according to this tweet, Hamas terrorists enter a house where a small girl is seen hiding under the table. After some talking back and forth, they shoot and kill her as she hides under the table. Hard to say how old she is, but she looks like 7 to 9 years old. And on it goes. You think of these atrocities, and then you think of the protests we've seen globally with hundreds of thousands of people giving moral support to Hamas and instead condemning Israel. And you just despair. Israel showed journalists this footage because it needs the world to understand what happened in order to explain why Israel is fighting back so forcefully. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte he's never seen anything this horrible in his entire life.
I've been through wars. I've seen horrible things. I've never seen things this horrible. This is a battle of our common civilization.
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many hours.
As he said at the end there, a battle of our common civilization. And that's true. This isn't simply an attack on Jews. It's an attack on the very values our Western society holds dear. But in the United States, the White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked if the Biden administration was concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism that we're all seeing around the world. And she said she's seen no credible threats. And then she immediately started speaking about hate-fueled attacks against Muslims. Now, of course, hate-fueled attacks against anyone, irrespective of your religion or background, it's utterly unacceptable. But she is now being roundly criticised for dismissing anti-Semitism. Have a look at the interaction.
Level of concern right now about the potential rise of anti-Semitism in light of everything that's going on in Israel?
So a couple of things. We have not seen any credible threats. I know there's been always questions about credible threats, and so just want to make sure that that's out there. But look, Muslim and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks.
And then there's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is the shocking video she's posted to her social media.
The government of Israel
for many years have been detaining innocent Palestinians without charges. The hostages that Israel is holding, that is also something that should be discussed. That has come up over years. And that is absolutely, the numbers and the estimates, I believe, are in the thousands. But war crimes do not justify war crimes.
Now, during the attack on Israel, some Hamas terrorists were captured by Israeli police and they've been interrogated by the Israeli Security Authority. And I can show you tonight, for the first time on air in Australia, what Hamas ordered these terrorists to do and what Hamas promised to give them financially for every Jewish person they captured. The Hamas terrorists said their mission was to kill the men and then to capture women and children. Have a look.
التعميمات في بخصوص المدنيين كانت اللي هو يعني قتل الرجال الأسر اللي هو النساء والمسنين والأطفال.
قتل الرجال يعني المدنيين. الشباب مدنيين.
هذا مدني عسكري زي.
So just to be clear, what you're seeing here now for the first time on Australian television are Hamas terrorists who were captured by Israeli security, Israeli police in Israel, being interrogated by the Israeli authorities. These are the admissions that they're making about the orders they were given, how much they were paid to kill Jewish people, and what other incentives were provided to them and their families for carrying out these terror attacks. This next Hamas terrorist said that they were promised $10,000 each and an apartment if they kidnapped a Jewish hostage. Have a look.
لأنه في غزة اللي باخذ أسرى له مكافأة.
قديش المكافأة قالوا لكم؟
شقة منزل بيت $10,000.
اللي بيجيب كل أسير باخذ شقة ومنزل؟ مين قال لكم إياها هاي؟
كانوا يحكوها في القسام.
The captured terrorists speak about setting homes in the kibbutz on fire. They explain in detail how they entered the homes and shot whole families inside. They speak about taking selfies with a 15-year-old girl before kidnapping her. And this next terrorist speaks about shooting an elderly woman.
طخين على الشبابيك والابواب. ومين طخيت هناك؟ طخيت مرة كبيرة. هي كانت قبالة ولا ايش فاهمني؟ تفاجأت فيها طخيت. وين الطلقة طبت فيها؟ في كتفها. وشو صار فيها؟ وقعت.
Then when the terrorists saw that many Israeli families were rushing into the safe room in their homes, here's what they did.
سكروا الباب اللي جوا الغرفة الحصنة. بعدين لفوا صاروا طلع برا عماد أبو عبيدة صاروا يقولوا في يهود هان في يهود. ايش وكان الشباك مسكر حديد. صاروا يقولوا لهم افتحوا اطلعوا افتحوا. ما رضيوش كانوا خايفين. جابوا عقدة مسطرة حطوها على الشباك وفجروا الشباك. فتح نتفة صغيرة. صار يولعوا اجى واحد صار يولع قطع قماش بداخلها يقول انه من خنقه من الداخل. البنت خافت وفتحت الشباك. بعدين اجى واحد من الجنب حافظ شكله بس ما بعرفش صار يزعق قتل اطفالنا وقتل نسائنا وصار يطخ عليهم.
قتلهم؟
اطلق عليهم يمكن 10 رصاصات بعدها
على الطفله وعلى امها.
بنت يمكن هو كان 18 سنه وكان 21 سنه وامها وابوها اربعه وكلب صغير.
والكلب قتله.
So I mean, I don't know what, I don't have any, I'm at a loss for words, to be honest with you, for what these journalists describe. And I've seen some things, little things here and there. I haven't obviously witnessed that. And just based on the little things that I have been able to see, it's absolutely atrocious. I can't imagine. I think a lot of these journalists, there's something touched their soul when they saw those, and not in a good way, when they saw those images, when they saw those videos. You have to. It has to touch you. As a decent human being, it has to touch you. And yet, we've got people, refusing to believe it. The Israeli spokesman there he was shocked that he even has to do this because of the denial that's happening due to the propaganda war, right? So the left has fully bought in to the propaganda, and that's why they support. Now I want to play another video here, and it is an actual interrogation of one of these Hamas terrorists that have been captured and has been released by the Israelis. So let's take a look at that. And this is directly from their mouth. So again, I don't know how you deny it, how these leftists deny all this stuff, but this is coming again, another one from the horse's mouth.
السلام مش متوقع. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. تمام الحمد لله. الحمد لله ملك. تمام. محمد ناهض أحمد العرشة. 21 22 مواليد 2002. على أساس السلام. صليت الحمد لله. نقرأ الفاتحة. قول اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. وشيوخ وإسلام ورجال وأطفال وصغير وكبير ومرض وصبي. قتلوهم. حسب الدين ممنوع هذا كله اللي بيصير. الخطف والزنا والهذا كله ممنوع. قطع رؤوسهم. كان حماس بعد ما قتلوا الناس قطع رؤوسهم جنبهم. بقول لك يمكن زنا اغتصاب اعتداء تحقيق كل واحد له فكره. زنوا اعتدوا عليهم. الأطفال يمكن زنوا فيهم خطفوهم اعتدوا عليهم قتلوهم.
Assuming that the translation is correct, the terrorist talks about how what they did, right? What their target was. Now, what's interesting, in one section he says, doing these things are forbidden. So I don't understand why he did it. But there was another video I saw another terrorist interrogated, and according to his statement, they were promised money. I don't know if it was 1,000 or 10,000, a couple of thousand for each body count that they had, right? So again, these people are capable of monstrous things. It's not just this one example that we have on October 7th. This has been going on for years, right? What these people do. So now the second group, interestingly enough, are the group that says that they're gays and queers for Palestine. As Bill Maher explained, these two groups of people don't share the same values. So when I went to Israel, the only location where I saw pride flags up, because we were it was at the tail end of May going into beginning of June, with June is Pride Month. We saw two major cities. One was Tel Aviv when we got there, and then the other one was the Israeli side of Jerusalem. We didn't see any such flags in any of the areas. We actually went into more areas, as a matter of fact, as I'm remembering now. I think the Dead Sea is also on the Muslim side, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really remember, to be quite honest with you. I could be wrong on that, but nonetheless, no matter where we went, we didn't see any of the pride flag on the Arab controlled or the Muslim controlled sides. Now, it's no secret that what happens to openly gay people in Muslim majority countries, right? Your life is literally in danger. But just as a sample, let's see what happens when the pride flag is brought to a pro-Palestinian rally.
street in Gaza. It would not end well. And Prue, what these people don't seem to understand that the only place in the Middle East where alternative lifestyles are protected, where these people have some rights, is Israel. And yet they are so against the only Jewish state and the only place where they would be safe in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's astounding. You know, look, we don't think they have much intellect. We've never thought that about these people, but they've clearly been brainwashed, or maybe this is the fault of an education system, that they don't understand history. They're not aware of what's going on in the world. They're happy to latch on to any bandwagon that they think, you know, poor things might need their support of. It's making them feel good about themselves because they have no intellectual identity, self-awareness. It's really tragic, but they're so dangerous.
That individual was bringing a pride flag to a pro. These people, I don't understand where, you know, their intelligence is, because it's not a secret. There's a thing, when you're a Christian, you might not support that particular lifestyle, right? Because of, biblical aspects, but you don't wish death upon the group, right? You just want them, your desires for everybody essentially to repent, right? That's our premise, right? But on the other side, they can't say that. That's not, and again, this is here. So his is his life in danger? I don't know. Or I shouldn't say here, like in the US. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's maybe it's in the UK. So his life essentially is not that in danger, but can't do that out there, right? Here we've got an openly gay person now, a person in a dress, chanting and supporting Palestine. Again, this individual, is not going to be able to do that over there. Go to Gaza wearing that dress. Good luck, right? So this confusing support from these two groups has caused like a lot of backlash, even from their own peers. The left is not united here. There's a lot of division. I think Hillary Clinton came out the other day talking about how, she doesn't want a ceasefire, essentially, right? Some folks have lost their jobs, while some donors have pulled funding from Ivy League colleges, because it's apparent that these liberal colleges are teaching anti-Semitic views. The losing of your job or potential work, is debatable, right? Though we have freedom of speech in this country, it's acceptable to defend. Is it acceptable to defend a terroristic group? Haven't people, lost their jobs just for being falsely labeled as a white supremacist? But let's say someone is a white supremacist and a member of the KKK. Should the company they work for, possibly a black owner or CEO or a boss level, keep this person employed? It's an interesting debate, and I'm torn myself, because I see both sides of the spectrum, but I cannot seem to relate to openly supporting a terroristic group of any kind. Ignorantly enough, this pocket of the left only sees what it wants to see, right? They fully digest the propaganda pill, despite undeniable evidence that shows the horrors committed by Hamas. Let's hear what the spokesman from Hamas has been saying. This is straight from the devil's mouth. Now, this individual is being interviewed in some Arab program, and he basically lays out. So all of the excuses that we've gone over, all of the things that you might have heard throughout the videos justifying the support, right, for this movement, this should squash all of that. Let's check this out.
إسرائيل دولة لا مقام لها على أرضنا. إحنا الدولة لابد أن نزيلها، لأنه بالفعل هي تعتبر كارثة أمنية وعسكرية وسياسية للأمة العربية والإسلامية، يجب أن تنتهي. لذلك احنا لا نخجل من نقول ذلك بكل قوه، انه اسرائيل لازم نأدبها، وحنأدبها مره ثانيه وثالثه، ومش هذا حتكون طوفان الاقصى اول مره، لا حتكون ثانيه وثالثه ورابعه، لانه احنا لدينا اصرار ولدينا قرار ولدينا امكانيات ان نقاتل وان نحارب، لكن كما قلت لك بدنا ندفع ثمن. نعم احنا مستعدين، معلش بدي اقول لك بشكل واضح، احنا اسمنا شعب الشهداء، ونفخر أن نقدم شهداء. احنا لا نريد أن نمس لا بالمدنيين ولا أن نلحق الأذى بهم، لكن أوقات لأنه في تعقيدات في الميدان صارت في منطقة موجودة، وكان هناك في احتفال وكان في سكان وفي منطقة واسعة ليست سهلة على امتداد تقريبا 40 كيلومتر. يجب أن ننتهي.
أن ينتهي وين؟
بس
بقطاع غزة؟
ينتهي إلى، لا بتكلم عنه كل الأراضي الفلسطينية.
كل الأراضي الفلسطينية، يعني زوال إسرائيل؟
طبعا. وجود إسرائيل غير منطقي. وجود إسرائيل هو اللي بخلق كل هذه الآلام والعذابات والدموع والدماء. هي إسرائيل مش احنا ضحية الاحتلال، نقطة واخر السطر. لذلك ما حدا يلومنا، احنا شو اللي بنعمله في 7 أكتوبر، في 10 أكتوبر، في مليون أكتوبر. احنا اللي بنعمله مبرر. It is justified، مبررة.
So as you can see in that video, the guy goes on to talk about how they don't want peace. They don't want peace. You know, a ceasefire is essentially just going to allow them to regroup, rearm. You know, they don't want a two-state. They want the destruction, the absolute destruction of the Jewish nation and the Jewish people. And again, assuming that the translation here is accurate, right? And I have no reason to state or to think that it isn't, because of the actions of these individuals, right? He's saying it in plain black and white, right? So how anybody can support this group is beyond my comprehension, and it's detestable. And so the amount of backlash, right? You know, as worldwide sentiment, anti-Semitic protests continue, the left will try to muddy the water by saying they support the Palestinian people, right? Again, this is part of their propaganda. This is another smokescreen excuse, because if they really stood with the Palestinian people, they would be protesting against the terrorist group like Hamas, Hezbollah, any of the 100 plus Islamic groups that are out there, right? They're the ones who are doing horrible things to the Jews as well as to their own people that they were elected by, specifically talking about Hamas, right? I mean, what more evidence is needed other than the fact that they canceled elections after being elected? Back in 2006, they got elected, they ended it, right? So, you know, this is this another example of the communistic Marxist left that tries to hide, or that's trying to hide itself? Or is it willful ignorance and sheer stupidity these people have openly displayed in prior examples, right? I mean, I think I'll leave that to you to decide. We have plenty of evidence to either support A, they're a bunch of communists in disguise, or B, they're just dumb and ignorant, right? I mean, you know, you can draw your own conclusions. But here's a sample of what we're hearing from the pro-Palestinian group. This is a video that's going to show multiple protests worldwide on a global level, and it's just such a head shocker. Let's take a look.
Je pleure parce que je vais retrouver la haine qu'on a eue pendant quand j'étais enfant. Et je comprends pas ça.
I love Hamas. Hamas should blow the fuck out of Israel. I think they're all dirty animals.
That's
and
not
they all deserve to
anti-Semitism?
die.
That's not anti-Semitism?
For real, they should be all exterminated.
Thank you.
Every single one of them. And
All
their
right.
kids, their mothers, their children, everybody. Just like Hitler
Thank you.
did.
So as you can see in that video, they're calling for violence against Jewish people. You know, gas the Jews, F the Jews, kill the Jews. Jews are being attacked. And this is happening, as you can see in those video clips, all over the world, including here in the United States. So it's disturbing, it's disgusting. You know, I'm at a loss for words when I see stuff like this, because it just doesn't logically make sense. These are people supposedly that are, that are supposedly for, all the emotional, sentimental values. The thing that separates the left and the right is that they're all based on emotion and not logic. And here you have, there's no emotional support for the Jewish people. Actually, their emotional support, or their emotion is it appears to be hatred, and they're just running with it. So similar to the mostly peaceful riots that took place in the summer of 2020, CNN would more than likely label this a mostly peaceful chant of death, right? And as mentioned before, it's extremely difficult to separate the normal people of Palestine and their supporters from the terroristic group and their terroristic ideology of Hamas. Reports have been coming in that many business owners have fired or will not hire people at these rallies. That's why you see a lot of them with masks. And rightfully so, right? Again, it's hard to separate what you're standing for. And if you're saying gas the Jews and kill the Jews and so on and so forth, then it becomes really clear. And I wouldn't want somebody like that working for me if I had a company. I could use I could lose any type of clientele. So again, I understand this aspect. Now, some donors have even pulled funding from the Ivy League colleges, for allowing such hatred to be spewed on their campus. So this is a very confusing subject, as I can see two sides of the coin here. I can see the freedom of speech aspect, but the freedom of speech has consequences when we're talking about a business, right? You can't go out and say stuff like this and it affects your boss or your employer's business and they just got to suck it up. That's not how it works. So, again, I do see both sides. I think one thing, having a freedom of speech is allowing your opinion to be expressed. I think this goes beyond your opinion. This is hatred. You're calling for genocide of people. You're spewing, you're chanting for death. I think that's really, really different than, I have a XYZ view, right? So obviously I don't stand with terrorists. So I'm leaning more towards the side of, hey, you're out of here, right? Now, let's see here. So I want to give you guys, an example before I move on. Like I said before, there was a black owner, and let's say, there was one of his employees who's white is at a KKK rally, and they're chanting, kill blacks, right? Because I understand that maybe some of us are like, well, it's freedom of speech, man. We can't, that's part of our Constitution. But again, I want to remind you guys, the Constitution, was to taper off government. This is we're talking about private company, private business, right? So here's this black owner, this black boss, and they see their employee at this rally and they're chanting this. Why does that employer have to continue to employ that employee? You see what I'm saying? So I think almost all of us would be like, yeah, no, that looks bad. That you should get rid of that person. So why is it any different in this particular case? You've got a group of people who are openly chanting for the death of another group of people. Why is there any different? Now, I understand that hate speech has been weaponized, and that's where the tricky part comes in, because the left has weaponized hate speech. It's not just, so listen, just by you supporting Trump, you could be, inciting hate speech, right? If you just basically state the biological fact that there are only two genders, boys and girls, that could be considered hate speech, right? Hate speech towards the trans community. If you don't use somebody's proper, I shouldn't say proper. If you don't use the pronouns desired by an individual, you could be spreading hate speech. And I've seen that on multiple cases as far as like shows. I've seen it in corporate America, where if you don't acknowledge somebody by their proper pronouns, you can have an issue with HR, because it does deem under harassment, hate speech, etc., right? That's the problem, and that's the fine line. I think without that, I think most of us would probably agree with condemning this actual hate speech, right? This is actual hate speech, right? But it's definitely an interesting subject, and like I said, I can see both sides of the coin. But I'm gearing more towards, no one should be asking or calling or chanting for the death of an entire group. That's just wrong. Now here's the interesting part, and I mentioned this when I was with Osiris, is the rejection from the Islamic nations regarding their brethren, their Islamic brethren. So, I mean, why don't Muslim majority countries take in Muslim refugees, right? We've got a humanitarian crisis, like is being reported, and it's being reported both from, you could say it's being reported as a journalist, but it's also being reported to help with the propaganda, right? There's two sides to that coin. But why must westernized Christian majority countries, why is it up to them to take on these any displacement, any migrants that might be displaced from Gaza, right? All these Palestinians, right? We have members on both sides of Congress that are trying to bring people over here. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to have people go to a neighboring country with similar culture, language, values, etc., versus going to one that has the complete opposite, right? Now, Brigitte gives us some interesting insight from Lebanon's history. Let's check this out here.
You're from Lebanon, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Born and raised there.
So you're from the Middle East. The people that are calling themselves Palestinians aren't. They're probably Egyptian. They might be Jordanian. Egypt and Jordan just said, we're not taking even one of you people. They didn't want, Egypt didn't want Palestine or Gaza in the 1970s. In 2005, the Palestinians said, give us the land, we'll give you peace. They lied. They didn't do that. Just give me, if you don't mind, give me maybe a minute on the general overlay of that land. Jordan and Egypt don't want them. They could be Lebanese too. I have no idea. But who are these people, and why do they think they have a claim to this land? And why won't anybody else take them?
Look, nobody wants them because everywhere they go, everywhere the Palestinians go, they create problem. They went to Jordan. They created a problem. King Hussein of Jordan in the 70s bulldozed 30,000 of them and kicked them out. Lebanon, the country I was born into, was the only country in the Middle East that accepted the third wave of Palestinian refugees. And what did they do to Lebanon? They destroyed Lebanon. They turned Lebanon from Paris of the Middle East into a terrorist hellhole controlled by Hezbollah and funded by Iran. That's exactly why the Arabic worlds do not want them. All they have to do is look at the Palestinians, is look at Jordan, look at Lebanon. And by the way, the king of Jordan, his wife is a Palestinian, by the way.
Right.
And he doesn't want them. King Abdullah came out, said a few days ago, we have a red line. No way. We're not accepting any Palestinian refugees. Egypt doesn't want them. Qatar doesn't want them. Syria doesn't want them.
Yeah, but Joe Biden wants to bring them here, Brigitte.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have a petition on our website right now signed by over 500,000 people directed to members of Congress to stop any Palestinian refugee from coming into the country. Please go to actforamerica.org and add your name to that petition. Over 500,000 already signed it. No Palestinians into America. We've got enough problem. As if we need to import more terrorists into our country.
Pretty fascinating, the information that Brigitte gives, right? The history, how they went to Lebanon, so on and so forth, how other Arabic countries don't want these folks, and the king of Jordan having a Palestinian wife. It's really, really, interesting, right? Now, I want to, in this next video, gentleman gives us a little bit more information on the historical background. So let's take a look at that one real quick, and then we can continue on with our discussion.
Egypt, Jordan, and Turkey publicly reject Gazan refugees. Egypt even has a border with them, so it's very easy. But if they want to help Palestinians so much, why don't they accept them? Rest assured they know exactly why they do it, and one of the biggest reasons is called Black September. Let me explain. In 1967, Israel temporarily occupied the West Bank, which is bordered with Jordan. PLO, which were the Palestinian leadership, fled to Jordan. After 3 years and one joint battle with the Jordanian army against Israel, they started to gain more power and feel like the boss of their host, the Jordanians. It even got to the point where they began calling the overthrow of Jordan King Hussein. They started to act as a state within a state
publicly disregarding Jordanian law. They even tried to assassinate Hussein, Jordan's king, twice. The last straw of the Jordanians was an event when they hijacked 3 planes from Europe, which were meant to land in New York, and landed them in Jordan as their hostages. The PLO even blew the planes up in front of global media. No, but they're freedom fighters, they're not terrorists. All these events led to what is called the Jordanian Civil War, causing 3,400 Palestinians unalived and 537 Jordanians unalived. This is what happened, and I'll tell you why. Palestinian leadership only knows blood. They don't even care about the reasons. They fight whoever is close to them, even Muslims, let alone Jewish people. They proved it in this occasion. They proved it when they got Gaza from Israel in 2005, along with its infrastructure, which we clearly know that is now destroyed because they currently don't have the capability of generating electricity. All they know to create is rackets and violence. Egypt and Jordan and Turkey know it very well, and they don't want any freedom fighters infiltrating along with the innocent refugees.
Fascinating. I don't know this gentleman's background, but based on what has been happening in the Middle East over the last 2 decades, there's been a surge of migration of displaced Muslims heading over to westernized country versus heading over to their brother sister countries. So a lot of this, what this guy is the insight that this guy is given fits within what's been happening. Not only that, but all the historical key points and dates were right on point. So, I mean, it doesn't matter who's saying it as long as they're saying truth, right? So I find it extremely interesting that you know, these Muslim countries will support one another, especially when it comes to going against Israel, but will not support each other in assisting their fellow Islamic brothers in taking them in when they're displaced. Why do westernized Christian countries feel obligated to do so? Why do they feel obligated to bring them in as opposed to just, hey, go to a neighbor, right? The displacement, regardless of it's intentional or unintentional, has caused a massive split. Instead of having a unanimous support towards Israel, we have groups who are openly supporting jihad-like terrorism. I can't even imagine how that makes sense to anybody. Now, while they stay united, everyone else has been divided. I heard a quote last week that said, you know, the left thinks that diversity is our strength, but it isn't. Unity is our strength, quote unquote, right? Now, an extremely profound quote when analyzed, you know, when it really stands out. You know, diverse, the root word here seems like it's either divide rather than different, right? And I understand what the intention is with the word diverse, right? However, if we are united, that diversity can divide us. If we aren't united, that diversity can divide us. I think unity is much more valuable than diversity. What does unity look like? It looks like love for country, family, values, goodness, etc. Right? What's going on, or what has happened, or what this group of people, these terrorists, they don't represent any of that. So how can we be united? I mean, again, I've gone back 9/12. I think I've seen something in 9/12 that I'll never see ever again in my entire life, because I saw an amazing amount of unity in this country. America was unified like I had only read during World War II history books. But here we are, and I've said this in prior occasions. If there, God forbid, if there was ever another 9/11, we would not all be united at this point. We're just so divided. The poison has been injected, in my opinion, by the Obamas, and it's very, very obvious at this juncture, in my views. Now, here are my final thoughts. One thing that has impressed me over the years regarding Islam is their unity. Much like the Democratic Party, they stand united no matter what, right? When you see and hear folks like Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, Cenk, and others deceptively manipulate facts and details in order to support terroristic movements cloaked in religion, it should cause everyone to be concerned. It is not a phobia to speak truth, facts, make observations and assessments, and come to factual, educated conclusions. Again, when we look at the Muslim-dominated countries like Iraq, Iran, Palestine, and other such areas, simple questions. Are gay people allowed to live freely and openly? Are women allowed to wear what they want to wear? or do they wear what they're told to wear? Is there a culture of peace where everyone can practice whatever religion they believe in? Or is it a one rule only situation or else, right? Let's take a look at this final video here.
Israel is a colonial apartheid state.
Today, we're going to talk about apartheid.
A policy or system of segregation or discrimination on grounds of race.
Are you afraid to be in Israel?
Israel is a land of coexistence, diversity, and peace and prosperity.
Fact number 1. 20% of Israel is Arab citizens and permanent residents with full civil rights. Fact number 2. In 1949, there were 156,000 Arabs in Israel. Now there are 2 million. Fact number 3. These 2 million Muslims also have freedom of religion, with over 400 mosques peacefully existing in Israel. Fact number 4. Many Muslims volunteer to join the Israeli army, police officers, judges, ministers, and more. There are even 11 members of Israeli parliament who are Muslim. Fact number 5.
Once upon a time, the Middle East was full of Jews. Algeria had 140,000 Jews. Algeria, where are your Jews? Egypt used to have 75,000 Jews. Where are your Jews? Syria, you had tens of thousands of Jews. Where are your Jews? Iraq, you had over 135,000 Jews. Where are your Jews? Mr. President, where is the real apartheid?
After seeing these states, who do you think is the true apartheid state?
It's a hard reality, but it's the truth. And all of this points to, again, the hatred towards the group of people. And I go, Carlos, well, there's clearly Muslims that are embedded within Israel. That's because Israel has allowed that to happen. Israel is accepting, and they're the ones who are diverse. But is the truth set on the other side, right? You know, in the Middle East, there's only one country that has similar values to the U.S. and everything the left seems to love, and that is Israel. So that's why it boggles my mind for the left for this pocket of the left to stand with Hamas, to stand with Palestine, to stand with a group of people that don't believe what they believe in. But again, it's the victim mentality, oppressor. Their warped view is just unbelievable, and that's where we're at with this situation. It's really sad. It's really disgusting. I don't have any other words to describe, you know, the types of protests that are going on. But sure enough, I don't even know what has to happen here to resolve, because I don't think it can be resolved. I just hope and pray. I pray for all civilians on both sides, but I also support Israel going in and doing what it needs to do in order to stop these people from continued attacks to them. Guys, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me on this. I know this was a lengthy video, but there was a lot of information here to cover. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. Thank you so much. God bless America. God bless Israel. God protect all the innocents. Take care. Till next time. Bye-bye.